What's up, Raiders? Bionic here. Welcome to another Raid Shadow Legends video where we are going to talk about the one, the only Martyr. So I was lucky enough to pull that on my free-to-play account not too long ago. We love this champion for multiple reasons, mainly for the counterattack and increased defense. Of the three counterattack champions, though, she's not my favorite. I'll put it that way. I think Valkyrie stands out a little bit more, and then we have Skull Crusher being an epic, a little bit more accessible, but still, she has a great kit overall, don't get me wrong. Funny thing is, I've made a couple of videos, top 25 champions in the past, and she was never really on the list, simply because maybe I didn't explain myself correctly when I was doing that list. The list is more like a most wanted champion. So again, for the reason about her not being the top in counterattack champions, she's never really was on that list, but still, she's a great champion. I obviously maxed her out the second I got her because she does a lot of great things. Faction wars, she can also be great in some dungeons, although I don't need her. Currently am using her against the clan boss with the 2 counterattack method, and I'll show you guys a little bit of screenshots, right? Still not convinced that it's really worth it. And the problem that I had gearing my Martyr is simply that I didn't have a lot of leftover gear. So what I tried to do was to actually gear her while keeping all the other original champions from my clan boss teams geared at the same time. Therefore, I can play around with this until I decide if I really want to keep her in there or make her the only counterattack champion on my team. Anyway, all that being said, we have decreased defense, we've got counterattack, increased defense, and decreased attack, as well as a provoke. Okay, so also really strong in the arena. I don't use her for now because she's a little bit slow, but she could be on a slow tanky team. All right, so all that being said, let's look at her gear. Obviously, being a not a counterattack, but a clan boss champion, you definitely want her to be in lifesteal. Even with a battle Khazar, I'm running most of my champions in lifesteal. In this case, the gear is a little bit better because this is like new pieces I've had ever since I designed my clan boss team a little while ago. Okay, so obviously you will be looking for a lot of defense. Currently almost at 4,500, which is decent. 172 speed, it's all right, but she could be the slowest of the 2 counterattack champions simply because she buffs herself plus the other champions. Skull Crusher does not, so you would want her to be at like 171 if you want to do a slow tune speed for Nightmare and Ultra Nightmare. In my case, she's right now at 172 because the gear just didn't quite work well, and that would mean that I haven't increased the Skull Crusher to 172 and then reduce her to 171. Not quite there yet. It's still working relatively well. I could also always push for 191 and get an extra turn of counterattack on the Ultra Nightmare clan boss, but again, not quite there with the gear. Okay, so we've made it work with defense percent boots, obviously defense percent chest, and of course crit damage gloves, because I use a battle Khazar in the lead. Okay, so I also geared her while using the battle Khazar in the lead and not while using her in the lead for this defense aura. I really believe that 25% crit rate is a lot harder to obtain, especially on like a lot of lifesteal gear. My account isn't that crazy still in terms of gear, so making it work with this for now. Okay, we also have a crit damage amulet, as you can see, not fully leveled. Again, I always say that like if it's not exactly needed, like it's not going to be the difference between a 2-key and 3-key Ultra Nightmare, you know what I mean? So I'm not going to spend the extra silver right now because I'm always low on silver. All right, substats obviously want some crit rate, some attack, not attack percent, sorry, but speed and defense percent would be ideal, but you can't always have it all. Right here we have a little bit of accuracy, crit damage gloves, like I said, a lot of crit rate on it, which is great. HP, defense percent, crit rate again. Boots, kind of the same thing here. We do have a flat defense ring 6-star with 2 rolls on defense percent. Also does not happen quite often on my account, so really happy about that. And we have an accuracy banner, of course, with a lot of speed. I say this all the time, but like if you want to have defense percent boots, most of the time it's because you have a really solid banner with like at least 2 speed rolls. At least that's what I've noticed while gearing my champions, so kind of try to plan for that, right? So, like I said, overall stats, we have above 75% crit rate, which is perfect for the battle Khazar. We only need that. 166% crit damage. Could be a little bit better if we had a better amulet, maxed out amulet, and of course maxed out 6-star gloves, but again, not quite there. Defense kind of like on the sweet spot, right? And then health points. This point doesn't matter too much, but when I do use her against like the affinity boss, where she's same affinity or weak affinity, then she would be targeted first. Of course, a little bit more HP could help, sort of like my Skull Crusher, which I can show you guys right now at 47k HP, right, and 5k defense. However, you'll notice this guy does not have a lot of crit damage, okay? So I kind of just use the Skull Crusher as a tank, and even when I do use both counterattack champions, the Skull Crusher is taking hits. The way it's done on the grid, when you place your champions, you can sort of control who the clan boss is going to attack. And again, I'll show you guys some screenshots so you can see. As I said, all the skills were maxed out, okay? I always hang on to a lot of legendary skill tomes as a free-to-play player to max out S-tier champions. This is a perfect example. I got Martyr, she got maxed out right away. Mastery-wise, here's what I'm using right now. Typical counter-attack build, offense and defense. Nothing too crazy. You guys have probably seen this before quite a bit. I can show you guys the Great Hall, obviously, real quick, because it does affect the stats overall. Okay, so you do have to factor this in. And finally, let's go look at the clan boss here real quick. I do have some screenshots. I just finished a run, so 3 key, but this was the Force Affinity, and believe it or not, I did not put her in there for even the Force Affinity because she would have had like the an advantage, right? I'm still testing my old build compared to the newer build that I'm trying. So here's a couple of screenshots for you guys. This is sort of like double counterattack Ultra Nightmare Force. As you can see, the difference with this one right here, which was about 28 million today. So what I'm trying to figure out if it's only due to like procs of decreased defense or poisons or not enough crits, although almost all my champions have 100% crit rate. So again, just trying to figure out what's best. But in the case of the Force Affinity, I do believe that double counterattack would be a little bit better, okay? So in here, if I'm not mistaken, Skull Crusher is still taking the hits. If the Martyr is in the first lead, the first position on the grid, she still would not be taking the hits because she's the strong affinity. Okay, so the clan boss will always go for same affinity or strong affinity first. He's not going to attack his own weak affinity because he would get weak hits. So you got to understand that about the AI. So in this case, what I'm really gaining from my Martyr is not more counter attack. I still only get 2 rounds of counter attack, but I am gaining like an extra decrease attack, although I already have Paidma for that. But I'm gaining increased defense compared to here, where if I use the rosin, I'm getting decreased defense a little bit more consistently, as well as the weaken. Okay, so that's what I'm trying to gauge here. Is it more important to have increased defense or to have almost 100% uptime on decreased defense and weaken? All right, the next ones right here are sort of like the results on Ultra Nightmare. So what we see is 2 different runs, one with the sort of like old build where I only had 1 counterattack being Skull Crusher with rosin for my decreased defense and weaken, compared to the one with Martyr where we have double counterattack, we're gaining increased defense. We have almost 100% uptime on the decreased defense. Martyr at 75% is pretty decent, but Rosin on his 3-turn cooldown at 100% chance with the weaken might actually be maybe a little bit better, but because of the increased defense, my defense type champions, such as Martyr herself and then Paidma, are maybe dealing a little bit more damage. I think you can see it right here, but on this one, Paidma is dealing like 4.4k total damage, and then on this one, she would be dealing 5.6k. Okay, so if anything, what I see here is that it's very similar, but like I felt like this one was sometimes a little bit less consistent. Now I don't know if it's due to procs or just poisons not sticking as much, but overall it might be a better option simply because I have increased defense and ally protection. But again, very similar, so I'm not convinced that it's worth to have necessarily both. What I still need to test now, which I've tried a little bit, was to put the Martyr in the lead, but I'm losing a lot of crit rate, therefore a lot less damage overall. like a bigger gap between like a good run and a bad run. So at this point, I really just want consistency to be able to do my 3 keys on a daily basis. Except when it's the Spirit Affinity, I'm still having a hard time with that one. So that's pretty much it, guys. I really just wanted to show my Martyr. I want to know what you guys think overall. Have you guys tested her against sort of like Rosin? Because I feel like they somewhat fill the same role. Like I said, increased defense, decreased defense, and then we have decreased defense and weaken, maybe a little bit better, okay? So compared to Skullcrusher, they sort of like fill similar roles because of the counterattack, but the ally protection can also do a lot of great things. So both combined together is really interesting specifically for that. It's not the double counterattack that's making the big difference. It's literally just ally protection plus increased defense. Anyway, that's basically it. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I will catch you later.